If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me tell you about it. It's free, which is amazing. And there are these really cool creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will even distribute your podcast for you, so it's easy to be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts. And you get to make money with no minimum listenership, which is really cool. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started right away. Wellnesspreneurs, are you ready to stop side hustling and start making an income doing what you love? It's time to pull up a seat and align your third eye on the prize. Each week, we will have conversations with successful creatives in wellness, business, marketing, and more to uncover practical methods to take you from A to B. My name is Jessica Cross, and I am so excited to link arms with you and get started. Let's dive in. Susan Vichick-Johnson is a psychotherapist by trade who has joyfully stepped into her sacred space as a sound and Reiki master. Susan weaves her essence as an intuitive empath into her trainings as a clinical social worker, a psychotherapist, a certified sound therapy practitioner and meditation teacher, and as a Reiki master. She co-creates spaces for healing in collaboration with me, yours truly, in the Sound Academy, and she's created sacred sounds to clear energetic blocks. She creates opportunities for you to align to your divine essence and connect with your creativity while you ignite your passion for your life and your relationships. I can't wait to share this episode with you. Let's take a listen. Well, hey, Susan. It's so good to be here with you.
Hello, lovely Jessica.
Thanks for taking some time to chat with us today. I'm so glad you're here.
Gosh. You're so welcome. I'm so honored to be on your podcast.
Well, I knew when I was starting this, I had a very short list of people that I wanted to ask, and you are at the very top. So, I'm just glad you're here.
You're so welcome. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Well, we heard a little bit about you when we were starting the episode today, but I want to kind of kick it off because you have such an interesting journey as to how you got to where you are today. And I'm kind of curious if you can tell us a bit about how sound and meditation entered your life.
Oh, I'm happy to share that story with you. It's kind of twofold. I'll have to say about meditation, I actually learned to meditate when I was about 16. It was part of my training. I was a competitive swimmer, and I had this very forward thinking coach, and he brought in an expert in training, but they didn't call it meditation at the time. But it was all about breathing, about visualizing, and about being very centered in the moment of the race. And I used that for years, but only when I was competing. And then as I moved through college and early career, I only used it when I was struggling, when I was feeling anxious. I think the missing link when I was taught this was we weren't taught that this was an everyday tool to use. It was a tool to use for certain occasions. So we can fast forward. I'm just moving through life. I'm working in my trade, in my field as a psychotherapist, just grooving along. And then I have a life altering moment when my father passes away, and spending the time with him and with my family was this very spiritual experience. And I have to say, when I started talking about it, it felt odd to say that this experience was spiritual, but it truly was. And it brought me to ground of what is my soul's purpose in this world. And I just asked that question and let it be. So I had been going on retreat with my mom and her friends from college. So shortly after my dad's passing, we were on retreat, and there was a woman named Pam who's a sound therapist. And so she led a meditation class using the bowls. I thought it was wonderful. And afterwards, she and her husband said, "Oh, we've got time. Let's go check out all of our bowl collection, and you can play with the bowls." And so her husband had me stand in a huge bowl, and then he put a bowl on my head. And so someone was striking the bowl. I was standing in the bowl on my head, but then he had a bowl in his hand and he walked around me, and these vibrations. And I just remember swaying back and forth with no effort on my part, just the vibrations swaying me back and forth. But I still wasn't convinced that this was anything other than, oh, this is cute. So I was with one of my mom's friend, Targi, and she's a total skeptic. She doesn't believe in any of this. Well, Pam said, "Targi, let me put this bowl on your head." And I'm like, this is getting even weirder. It was fun to sway. I'm literally on my phone checking on Amazon. Oh, can I buy a bowl on Amazon? I'll just try it out. So Pam said, "Susan, why don't you put the bowl on your head?" And I'm like, "Sure, okay." So she put a large third eye bowl upside down on my head. She struck it once, and this electrical bolt just ran across my forehead. She struck it twice, multiple bolts of electricity just zooming across my forehead. She struck that bowl the third time, and tears are running down my eyes. And we just sat, and the bowl just vibrated and vibrated all the way down to my feet. And she took the bowl off and she said, "How was that?" And when I could speak, because I had tears, I was vibrating. Finally, my response was, "What was that?" And she said, "Just sit with this for a while." And I had the bowl in my hand, and I looked at her and I said, "I don't think I can let go of this bowl." I felt this instant connection to this bowl and the energy. And she said, "You know what? Just keep it with you. And when it's time to leave, if you decide you want to keep it, just let me know and we'll make arrangements." So that was my very first bowl. I still use it. I have it. I use it with every sound session, every sound bath. If I need to put a bowl on my head, I use this third eye bowl. But I have to tell you, Jessica, when I came back to Austin, I thought, I can't let go of this. I have to figure out what is sound, what is vibration, and how can I bring this into my everyday life? So I go to the yoga studio and I start asking around, and people start throwing out this name, Everett. Like, who is Everett? And everybody I spoke to said, "Oh, you need to talk to Everett. You need to talk to Everett." So the other thing that happened was I enrolled in a meditation teacher training institute. And so I'm starting that. Actually, when I was on this retreat with the bowl in my head, I got my acceptance letter for the institute. So I come back to Austin, I'm starting this program, but I have to find out about sound. And so as I'm going through this intensive training for meditation, I meet Everett Allen, our sound teacher, and I go through level 1 training. And oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever been the same after level 1 sound therapy training. So for a while, I just let it be. I finished my meditation training, and I was using sound in my home, using sound for my own practice. And then I started integrating it into my meditation classes. And then I started integrating it into my psychotherapy sessions. And this is when everything shifted again. You know, I'd been practicing psychotherapy for 25 years by that time. I had a system down, you know. I knew what I was doing, and then sound. And I started with just transitions using sound to move from the outside world to being in the therapy room to transition back out again. I just started with this, and we were using sound. But I started noticing changes with my clients. I started noticing central nervous system was slowing down. I started noticing that words were not so difficult. So I started bringing sound in more and more with my psychotherapy clients, and was noticing these clear shifts with my clients and the work we were doing. And then began noticing that some of my clients were getting relief without using words. By sitting within the sound and the vibration, the blocked energy was shifting. And I thought, what is happening? This is the energy of sound and vibration, that it's moving all of the stored energy that is just hanging around in our system with no place to go. It started moving and people were getting relief. So then I started thinking about energy. So that led me to Reiki and Reiki training and becoming a Reiki master. And so all of these things just started working together and working together. So things just kept shifting. And I had done one thing for so long. And coming from this spiritual experience with my father, moving into sound and meditation, I started opening to the flow of things and stopped trying to control, and was really tapping into, just for today, where is my soul taking me today? And just for today, what is my soul's purpose? So I like to attribute that sound really opened doors to me being able to hear my soul's purpose. So we'll just fast forward that eventually I closed my psychotherapy practice. I still integrate all of the skills and knowledge in being a psychotherapist into sound and energy sessions with clients, and working on moving this stuck energy that keeps us stuck in our lives, that keeps us stuck in our patterns, old relationships, ways of being that may have served us at one time, but are no longer serving us. And I feel like individually, that's what we're doing. And as a collective, we're trying to shed these ways of being that no longer serve us. And I feel like sound really contributes, because the vibrations are gently just moving this energy through for exactly what you need in this moment.
Your story is so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I love how the breadcrumbs kind of presented themselves and you followed them back to your soul's purpose, back to where you could hear that clear message of, you know, just for today, this is what I'm doing. And then the next and the next and the next, and how it arrived you here so you can serve other people with your beautiful light. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Because if you hadn't have done that, I don't know, maybe we would have met. maybe not, but we did meet.
Did. And it's those breadcrumbs. I really love the way you say that, because the breadcrumbs, soul is dropping those crumbs every day. And you and I were kind of orbiting each other. But then we both experienced some shifts that cleared the way for us to actually see each other.
Yes. Yes. So I know everyone knows we're friends and we go way back, and I'm sure everybody would love to hear the story about how we met. I was going through a similar shift about the time that you were being introduced to sound and you were in your meditation teacher training, as I was jumping into my yoga 200-hour teacher training almost at that exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a mutual friend, if you would like to call it that. I would say he's probably more of a friend, than a friend to you. He's your husband. Who introduced us. And I remember Tony saying, and I was telling him I was starting this teacher training. He's like, you have to meet the Susan. You must talk to the Susan. And I was like, okay, well, I know we had met many times before, but I don't know if it would have been more than, just casual conversation. But I remember us being at an event together and Tony bringing me over to you. And he's like, please talk. and then goes on his way.
I remember this event, and the thing I remember, Jessica, is that we had met before. But at that event, when Tony reintroduced us and what we were doing, I remember doing a double take and saying, "You're doing yoga? You're doing what? We need to talk." And then we went from, oh, this is the wife of someone I work with, and you stopped being, oh, this is my husband's coworker, and you started being Miss Cross. I don't know that people know that that's how I affectionately refer to you, but you started being Miss Cross. And we started talking.
Boy, did we.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
One of the things that struck me was you and I were both living, these professional careers that we were working on building and building, but we were both feeling the call of something else. And I was feeling it through meditation, and you were feeling it through yoga. And then we both heard the sounds. And we both found our way to our teacher, Everett.
Yes, I love this story because, and we're just going to have to tell him that we were talking about him at such lengths. I'm not even sure if he realizes what a catalyst he's been in our lives, but I was introduced to sound in a yoga class. I was in a yin yoga class, very slow, long holds. And at the end of class, during this extended shavasana, the teacher brings out singing bowl. At the time, I mean, I've seen them on people's mantles, but I'd never actually put the two and two, the beautiful sounds coming out of this amazing instrument together until that moment. And that teacher was Everett. Of course. And unbeknownst to you and I were on this kind of parallel path into coming into sound through him. And you took his class and you introduced me to his practice. You're the first person to put bowls on my back, and I had all kinds of stuff coming up. Like, I remember I had some shoulder thing come up, and I think we were both like, what just happened? Like,
when you feel that tension release.
Yes.
With the bowls. Yes, I can remember that. I remember because it was so early on when I was still learning, and you were so gracious to let me train on you. And I remember that shoulder and feeling when you put the bowl and you play, and the vibrations and the releasing.
It's transformational. It really, really is. And I'm so glad that you were kind enough to include me in that process, because it really sent me off into this whole other world where I was like, I feel this call, this almost pull from my heart, like a heartstring pulling me towards the sound and wanting to know more. And I'm like, tell me about your experience, and just I want to know everything. And I'm so glad that I got to learn from you too. It's been
Oh,
wonderful.
it has been wonderful. And, Everett, um, being our teacher, our mutual teacher. But, one of the things that really strikes me, Jessica, is that we have the same sound teacher. We've had the same training, and sound shows up the same and different in our lives because
Yes.
we we are different beings, and we move through the world in different ways, and connect with different and the same communities, but
Yes.
that it shows up in our lives for what we need and what we want to share with our communities.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's really special because it sound can fill the gap within yourself, so you can serve that portion of your community in ways that the person in the seat next to you in this training, may not resonate with them in the same way, because they have their own purpose to fulfill with
Right.
sound. I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it.
I
I love it.
remember about a year after my teacher training ended, my meditation teacher was in town. And so I had picked her up at the airport. We were driving around, and she asked, well, so how are you teaching meditation these days? And I said, I'm not so much teaching it as much as I've integrated it into the way I sit with my psychotherapy clients, or the way that I offer sound sessions, or just the way I move through the world, but I'm not really teaching. And I thought she would be offended by this. And she was so joyful. And she said, I love that meditation is showing up the way that you need it. And you are reaching a whole group of people that I would never reach.
Mm,
And I
the
feel
message carries
like
on.
it
Yeah.
just, it carries on, and we it carries on the way we move through the world. And we all move through the world differently. You and I use sound differently, and we're reaching groups of people who may never have been introduced to sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that story. It does just show up in the way it's supposed to. And only you're, there's only one you, only one you, and you can only speak your own message, which resonates with people that, as your teacher said, may not have been reached otherwise. It's such a beautiful part of it. I love
Right.
that. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about your client work, and I know that your practice has shifted in different ways over the years. You closed your psychotherapy practice, and you've really stepped into sound sessions and Reiki sessions. So take me a little bit through the flow of your sound and energy sessions. If I were to set up an appointment with you, what does it look like? How's that experience?
Oh, thanks for that question, Jessica. So the way I do sound and energy sessions now, and the way I was doing them, let's say January of 2020, these things look really different. Um, but I'll talk a little bit about if we were to meet in person for a sound and energy session, we would have a chance to visit and just talk a little bit about your intentions for the session. If there's anything specific that you're working on, any energy that you would like to shift. The bulk of a sound and energy session is laying on the treatment table and having the bowls placed on different parts of your body and playing the bowls. So playing the bowls is striking the bowls and allowing the sound to penetrate your whole system and allowing the vibrations to move through every cell of your body. And I have kind of a blueprint that I use, um, but with the Reiki and energy work that I've been trained to do, I start with that blueprint, but then I let your energy guide me and intuitively move to where this energy needs to be moved. So every time you come to see me, the bowls are going to go on different places of your body because every time I see you, your energy is different.
Mm.
So in a session, there's a little bit of Reiki as I tune into your energy that guides me in the placement of the bowls, and really just take my time with this. And we just kind of savor the sounds and the vibrations of the bowls placed on you and around you. And, just as you talked about with the shoulder, Jessica, that really is a signature of sound healing. When I listen to the sound of the vibrations, and then I listen for the release.
Mm.
And I love checking in after a session and I'll just ask, when this was happening, what did you experience? And people talking about, I was feeling this tension. And then all of a sudden, I talk with people during the sound session. Everybody has different experiences that when I'm playing the bowls, when I am tuning into the Reiki energy, you might feel it as physical sensations. You might feel it as emotions, memories. You might see shapes and colors. And again, feeling releases throughout the body.
Mm.
Um, and then afterwards, allowing some quiet before we get up and start doing again. We stay in silence and allow the sounds and the vibrations to settle into every cell.
Mm.
And then we have some time for conversation. Um, Part of my sound and energy is receiving intuitive messages. And so we have time to share and have conversation about what was your experience, what was my experience, because we've co-created an experience together. And you have some of the information and I have some of it. And when we share it, there's a whole other level of release. There is another level of knowing, and there's a deeper connection with your soul. So, this is what we do. All of this has moved online. I have to say, before we had our pandemic, I was already doing this online. So, um, I didn't feel like I had to pivot too much when we switched. Um, so everything now is virtual on Zoom. In my mind's eye, I'm still placing the bowls on different parts of your body as energy is guiding me. This is my third eye seeing. And so even though we're not in the same room, I'm visualizing the different places where the bowls are being placed on you. We're still connecting through the energy. We don't have to be in the same room to connect energetically or to connect intuitively with each other.
Mm.
I'll tell you one thing that the shutdown did bring, Jessica, was
Yeah.
things I hadn't thought about or I had shied away from. And one of those was continuing to practice Reiki. And I started offering Reiki infused sound recordings.
Mm.
So, doing a distance Reiki session with somebody and playing the bowls during the Reiki session and recording that. And so, you have a personalized MP3 recording of your sound energy. You're the only one who has it, but you can use it for meditations. You can use it to get focused. You can use it to fall asleep. And every time you listen, you're having a different experience, but it's your energy that's infused in this recording. So
I love
sound
that.
just wants to keep showing up in so many ways. And so, yeah, I'm picking up the breadcrumbs. I'm opening the door. I'm accepting the RSVP invitation to find all the ways that sound wants to show up.
Oh, I love that. I love how you got that intuitive hit even before we were all virtual and all the things to start offering such a personalized sound energy offering like that. Like that's just so special. I don't know about, and I could just not be aware of, I can't think of anybody else who's offering anything like that. That's
Hmm.
so nice. That's so, so nice.
This is,
So
well, thank you for
yeah,
that, Jessica,
of
and
course.
thank you for, yeah, just witnessing my evolution over the years.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. I've loved to see you just flourish in the way that
Mm.
you have. It's been fun to watch. So, if someone wanted to start using sound in their lives today, what would you recommend for them?
You know, that's part of my evolution because when I um, started using sound, I thought I had to have so many sound instruments that I couldn't start unless I had a full set of Tibetan
Mhm.
bowls. I couldn't start unless I had a gong and this whole set of chimes, right? Um, but I also discovered that's part of who I am. Like I have a hard time just starting things. I'll have to get it all just right. So I'm working on letting go of that.
So
And the
relatable.
realization, just start with where you're at. Start with what you have. Um, and I would encourage a listening and start with what you have, and maybe as a transition, if you're coming home, especially now that we're beginning to open up and we're going out more, our central nervous system is getting activated in ways that we're not used to anymore. And so, and use any kind of sound. If you don't have a sound bowl, you can get a recording of a sound bowl or go on YouTube or Insight Timer and listen to sound recordings. Like listen to Jessica Cross's sound recordings on Insight Timer.
I did not pay her to say that, by the way.
But that's really, I would suggest start with where you're at right now. And what you have at your fingertips right now. And maybe think about, using sound in meditation or journaling or really just transitioning. I just finished a Zoom call and now I want to go and enjoy my children. Oh, let me listen to 5 minutes of a sound recording and allow my central nervous system to regulate once again and move from the doing of the work world to being with my family.
Mm, I love that. There's so many tools that are so much more accessible than they even a few years ago
Mm-hmm.
were, with all of the online recordings, the apps like Insight Timer and Calm, and I mean there's a whole list that you could just have in your pocket. Like it's so easy these days.
I remember looking for CDs back in the
Yes.
day. It's like, can I find a CD of a sound recording? And fortunately, Everett had CDs, but that's what we had back then. You
Right.
know, we didn't have
Right.
apps and we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have, what's available. So that's my encouragement is start with what you have at your fingertips in this moment. You don't have to search for the perfect sound recording or the perfect sound tool. It's your intention is
Mm.
is bringing your intention to that sound experience.
I love that. Yeah, you don't need a whole host of bowls and two gongs and a wind chime. And like you mentioned you like to collect things. It makes you feel like you're, I've got to have all my ducks in a row before I can have this experience. I'm very much that way too. But it doesn't have to be that way. And often it's not. Once you've collected everything and you don't know what to do with it, then what?
And then what? And then you realize the a connection. And the more, I think you know what I'm talking about, Jessica. The more you play bowls, the more of your energy is in the bowl, the more of the energy of the people around. And so these bowls become infused, and there is a soul connection. And I can think about, oh, this is what's happening in my life right now. What bowl should I play? And I know what bowl I need to play in order to shift that particular energy. And the more I work with individual people, I get that same sense of when they start talking about this is what's going on, or even when they just show up and I can feel the energy in the room. Oh, the bowls start singing. They start saying, this is who wants it. And sometimes I'm surprised. I thought, oh, I was going to play this one, but I never lifted that one off the mat. I stuck with these. So that's the other thing of, well, you get connected. So you travel with your bowls, and anybody who works with bowls knows they travel. So I always travel with a minimum of 3 bowls. I used to travel with the whole set, but now I like to have at least 3. But I'm known to, if I'm going on a hike, Jessica, I throw one in my backpack. There's a stream. Oh, let me sit by the stream and I can meditate and play the bowl.
Isn't that powerful?
I was in Sedona one time and we were hiking in one of the vortex. And I had 3 bowls in my backpack. And when we got to the top, it was crowded. But I pulled out my 3 bowls and I just played my 3 bowls. And I wasn't paying attention. But when I finished and I looked up, I noticed that people had turned in my direction. And I just smiled, okay. But then a couple people came up and thanked me for playing. And a couple people had tears and had their palms at their heart center and expressing gratitude for playing and giving them this unexpected experience. And I thought, well, that was all the bowls. And I do a deep bow to the bowls. But again, the power of the bowls, and you never know these opportunities to play, to shift the energy, to bring energy to you, to shift energy for other people. Yeah, so the people who know me know it's not unusual for me to just pull out a bowl from some bag I'm carrying and start playing.
There's nothing like being the crazy bowl lady, right? Like it's the best. But to be serious, yeah, exactly. If you would have been concerned about what people thought about you by bringing your bowls anywhere and then up to the top of the vortex, there may have been a missed opportunity that someone needed to have space held for them with the bowls in that moment, which you could not have known in any way what that would have been for, but you showed up for it.
Mm-hmm.
You got the call, you showed up.
That's the thing, the showing up and the call that happens on that intuitive level. And having sound really has opened that intuitive door. Whereas maybe before I would have said, I'm not going to bring my bowl. I don't want people looking at me.
Yeah.
But now it's, oh, I need to bring my bowls. It's almost as if that energy reaches me and whoever needs the bowl, has sent that energy out and it reaches me.
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm talking about when that happens. Just what bowl to reach for, when to bring the bowl. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm sure you get this question. I often am asked, how do you know what to play and when to play it? And I always kind of giggle because I don't have a good answer for it other than, well, it depends. And it's kind of an intuitive practice. It's, I have a framework or I have an idea of where I might want to start and where I want to end. But if I'm in control, the full experience doesn't get to happen.
Right.
You have
Right.
to open palm, allow whatever spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it, to be a part of it, because that's what it is. It's a conduit. We're just a vehicle. The bowls are just a vehicle.
Right. Right. It's bowls, it's source, it's energy. I just happened to answer the door when it came knocking, and I just happened to be the person striking the bowls. But it is this energy that runs through me, runs through you, runs through the bowls, runs through everybody who's in the room. I like to, when we do sound baths and we're in with a group of people, talking about my appreciation that everybody showed up today, because it's everybody's energy in this room that's going to create the sound experience.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so true. I love that. So much fun with the bowls.
We could go on for days.
I think we could. Okay, so we've kind of talked about where we came from and all of the bowls and meditation and obviously yoga too, all this whole thing that has become our lives. And we've kind of had this parallel track as we've been going along on this journey. And then we found ourselves kind of meeting and realizing that there's something that we wanted to bring into the world. And for me, when I was feeling this, I think you were feeling it too. It was almost like you said, a knock at the door. Like it's someone's ringing the doorbell and it said, hey, come on in. Like, this is your path. So I want to talk about the Sound Academy. And I smile because I say it because it's one of my favorite things that we do. I kind of giggle every time.
I giggle and I think about, I can't remember us meeting for tea and talking about collaborating with each other. But what did that look like? Because we were on parallel paths, but where did they meet? And of course it was sound. But what did a collaboration, what would that look like for us? And I remember we just put it out there. We put it out there and decided, well, let's see what that looks like. And I think we both started feeling the call of creating experiences for other people to bring sound into their lives, into their homes, into the way they work. But we just started talking about, how can we create opportunities for others to have experiences that we've had with sound, and to go out into their community, like my meditation teacher said, reaching a whole community that you and I alone would never reach. Mm-hmm. So the seeds were planted. What does this begin to look like?
Yes. I remember after that tea, I think we both took some time to allow those seeds to germinate and see where it bloomed and came into fruition. And that that's been the Sound Academy. That's been our co-led adventure into sharing all things sound with our community. And wow, it has been so much fun, even more than I could experience or could have even guessed.
Yeah, I could not have imagined um, all that the Sound Academy would blossom into.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we've, of course, as everyone has had to kind of reframe the way they offer things into from in person to online, and we'll go back to in person or hybrid at some point too. It's almost a expansion and contraction over and over again. I think
Yep.
we've got several different offerings, but one of the things I might be most excited about is embodying your home sound practice, which we have coming up in June. Oh my gosh. So this is like our latest and greatest. We've taken all the learnings from our past offerings and we're delivering something new into the world. I'm so excited about it.
I am so excited. And I was thinking about pivoting. And I remember last year we had an in-person weekend sound certification class coming up, and nobody was meeting. And it really forced us, I know it really stretched me to think about, can I teach online? Can I teach on Zoom? Can I build a course? And you and I put our heads together and we thought, well, we can. But what we let go of in that moment was, well, the certification program really deserves to be in person. Um, but what else is there? And so beginning to think about, I don't know when we would have thought about, oh, what about home? How can we offer opportunities for people to use sound in their home, in their
Yes.
daily life? Maybe we would have gotten there, but this pivot made us realize I want to keep offering sound training opportunities. And if we can't do the full certification program right now, what opportunities can we offer? So embody your home practice is one of those.
I love it, and you put it so perfectly. I think that maybe we would have gotten there, as you said, but I almost think this is better because once you've embodied something in your own practice, then only can you share from a true place. So once it
Right.
becomes part of your daily life, it's second nature for you to share it with others if that's something that you even want. I think, before, if it was something that you weren't interested in, offering one-on-one or group practice, you would probably end up going through a practitioner course that you would take things from, and which is great. But now we actually have something for you, just for you, so you can add it into your practice, your personal practice. And it also too, it goes both ways. If there are things that you want to share with your family, with others, integrate it into your daily life, your other offerings, it's there too. But that's what I love so much about embodying your home sound practice, because it's something that's just for you at home whenever you want to access it.
Oh, well said. Yes, it is just for you in this moment. And, we came from let's teach people to, to hold space for others. That's what we were doing. We were used to holding space for others. Let's teach others. Oh yeah, this starts with you. We had to learn to hold space for ourselves before we could hold space for others. And so, yeah, I like embodying your home sound practice. And then expanding that, if you want to expand that into integrating sound into other parts of your life, there's that opportunity as well.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I think it's so natural as women, as practitioners, to think of others before ourselves. Like, I want to share this with other people, but we can only pour from a full cup.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I love about this program is it's really about how can you take care of yourself in small and big ways, but small ways consistently that can allow you to show up for others, because we all have that heart where we want to show up and impact each other's lives.
And it's self-care, and self-care is not selfish, because when you care for yourself, you're actually caring for those in your life. Because when we are drained, I know when I'm drained and I'm not practicing self-care, my family's not getting the best of me. So when I take care of myself, I'm actually taking care of those that I love and those in my community. So this home practice, that's where it's born, of taking care of yourself. And so I'm really excited about offering rituals that are accessible. You only need one bowl to practice these rituals of self-care every day.
Yeah, yeah. You don't need the full sack of bowls to get it done. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, I can't wait to offer it. We're launching this on June 7th. And this is 2021 if you're listening to us in current time. And yeah, we'll have lots of links and things to share as we're getting closer. That's just one of my favorite things, and I'm so glad that we get to have that experience together. I love working with you.
I am with you, Jessica. Sound is one of my favorite things. The Sound Academy, and co-creating this with you, and moving through this together, and having you as a partner, in the Sound Academy, as a partner, and all the gifts that you bring, um, it just, my heart just swells whenever we're together. Well, even when we're just talking, but when we're together as the Sound Academy, and I see what we started talking about over a cup of tea is actually blossoming. Oh, my heart just feels so good.
Me too.
So
It's
thank you for being on this journey with me.
likewise. Thanks for following the same breadcrumb trail down that path. It's been a lot of fun. We have a lot of people who are listening, and maybe they're side hustling, or maybe they're wanting to start a side hustle, or perhaps they're wanting to move into their own business. And I know you've been working for yourself for most of your career.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to ask if there is there is one thing, and if you have a couple, that's okay too. But if there's one thing that you could tell yourself way back when you were getting started, either in your psychotherapy practice or in your meditation teacher training or any iteration of you, could you go back and tell yourself one thing that would save you a bunch of time or a bunch of sleepless nights? Anything that you'd like to tell that person, and maybe I could help somebody who's listening.
Oh, there's probably a list, but I think the one that really comes to mind, Jessica, is, um, the anxiety of trying to figure out what people want, and then trying to figure out, okay, if I can figure out what people, I don't know who the people are, but if I can figure out what they want and package it up, then I'll have a full practice. I'll have a full psychotherapy practice. I'll have a full sound practice. Um, And that creates a lot of anxiety trying to figure out what is it? What's the perfect thing? I would go back and whisper in my ear. What I try and remind myself daily is show up as yourself. Bring all of your gifts to the room, and the people who are longing for this, the people who are desiring this, those are the people who will show up. And those are the people that you really want to collaborate and co create space with. I spent too much time trying to figure out what's the right way to be a psychotherapist or a sound person or a meditation teacher. Well, really, what's the right way for me? Why don't I just step into that skin and let those people show up with me and we can create the experiences together? Because really, in the past, trying to figure out who it is, what do you want? Let me do that thing. And then afterwards, I would worry, did I do it right? Did I show up the way they wanted me to show up? And now, if I show up as my full self with the gifts that have been gifted to me, I don't have that anxiety because I know I showed up and somewhere in there was exactly what was needed in that moment. So it's kind of esoteric and out there, but it's the really, we all have our own gifts and the world is longing for our gifts to show up. And when I show up as my real self, then those people who get me, who understand me, who understand sound and energy, even if they don't understand it on a conscious level, those are the people that show up on my path. And that feels really good. When I show up, they show up.
Oh, that's such good advice. That is such good advice. Often spin, and I can totally relate, just spinning your wheels thinking about what other people want. But what other people want is for you to be yourself so you can shine your light and they can see it. It's almost like a lighthouse. You're just bringing the boats home.
Yeah, yeah. I love that visual of the lighthouse. Um, and it's a practice every day. It is a practice, and I'm okay with that realization that this is an everyday practice. It's not okay. Take this course, and you're done. I feel like all of the training that you and I have done um, have been just tools along the way, and we practice every day showing up.
Mm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's very well said.
Mhm.
Well, tell us where we can find you and all the other cool things that you have coming up.
Well, let's see. If you want to delve a little deeper into the way I move through the world in sound and energy, you can find my landing page at sacredsoundsatx.com. For little tidbits throughout the day, you can find me on Instagram at sacredsoundsatx with a dot in between each word. And either one of those platforms, feel free to send me an email, start a conversation with me. I love to hear what's going on in the world. I love to connect with other people. Yeah, that's where you can find me.
Perfect. Well, I know you have a lot of wonderful things coming up. So definitely, folks, go over and check out Susan. She's super sweet. She has lots of awesome content out there too. If you just need a little sound break in the middle of the day, you can check her out on her Instagram. And then definitely look for the Sound Academy and our latest offerings, Embody Sound. It's coming up on June 7th. And we're going to open the doors very soon. So check back. Thanks again for your time today. It was such a pleasure. I love you. I love spending time with you.
I love you too, Miss Cross. And thank you for creating the space to talk about sound, about intuition, about the way we move through the world. I am so looking forward to all the guests and all of the wonderfulness that you're going to bring on your podcast.
Thank you so much. It means a ton.
I just loved that episode with Susan. She and I are such good friends, and it was super fun to just kind of chat through all the things and how we became friends and really formed the Sound Academy. It's just been an amazing experience, and I'm so glad to share that with you. I wanted to let you know that we have a masterclass coming up on May 19th, which would be tomorrow. It'll be 7 p.m. CT, where we'll be talking about sound and transitions and weaving sound into your life as a personal practice. It's something that's near and dear to our hearts, and it's a free masterclass. We would love to have you. So I will drop a link in the show notes if you'd like to join us. And thank you so much for listening today. It was so awesome being here with you. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening to Third Eye on the Prize. Got an idea or something to share with Jessica? DM her on Instagram at jessicacross.co and let her know what's on your mind. We're so grateful for your support, especially as a small woman-led business. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.